learn about this coast, the more you realize how it is completely interconnected. To try to separate the marine environment from the terrestrial environment in this part of the world is naive or ignorant. You can't separate them. They are one. They support each other, and if an oil spill ever happened here, both worlds would be impacted in a devastating way. We've been dealing with fish farms, we've been dealing with deforestation, clear-cut logging, and a lot of other environmental issues, but nothing even comes close to the threat of these oil tankers on the coast.
Oil has a long history of not producing wealth or prosperity, but exactly the opposite. What oil brings is poverty, social disease, environmental degradation, and this is something that this coastline does not need. The people of British Columbia need other alternatives, and when you look at this landscape, the options are all open. This place could become a world-class tourist destination. It could become a huge protected area. I mean, all the options are there, so why choose the option that could spoil it just for short-term gain?
This isn't just an environmental threat facing British Columbia and the coast of British Columbia. This is an environmental threat that would be facing planet Earth. This would have global impact. We've literally tried everything to convince the government to stop this proposal without success. And that's why groups like Pacific Wild, local Indigenous First Nations people, other local NGOs have invited International League of Conservation Photographers to come here and do their best at showcasing this place.
The International League of Conservation Photographers is a consortium of photographers and photojournalists, and our job is to bring back stories from far-off places. Places where regular reporters don't go and where the stories that matter to our planet are being told. When you're working with 100 of the best photographers in the world, you need to deploy them. And so we came up with the idea of a SWAT team, where you send some of the best photographers to capture images and bring back stories. And we came up with the idea of a RAVE, a Rapid Assessment Visual Expedition, to send a handful of photographers out on a mission to create a snapshot of an area so that we can use those images to engage the media and create tipping points around conservation issues.
So I was trying to take this picture of the salmon, leaping up these waterfalls, and one of them slammed right into me and sat in my chest while I was trying to take this picture. So I felt pretty bad because this poor fish has been swimming for 4 years, escaped all these predators, finally making it back to the spawning grounds, and I was sitting there trying to take a picture and just blocked its access up the river. Salmon are the foundation species, the unifying thread, the species that is a driver for this entire ecosystem. So if you follow the life cycle of salmon from the outer coast, the outer Pacific, right through the archipelago where these tankers would go, and right up into all these salmon creeks and salmon rivers, right up into the rainforest where they spawn and ultimately die, you've covered pretty much every environment. And I think that's what we're trying to follow here, is really the life cycle of salmon. That's a difficult task because you're covering a lot of different environments, and you're covering a lot of different ecosystem types, and yet all of those ecosystem types are at stake with this issue. If an oil spill happened, nothing would be spared. It's exciting
exciting because we have been invited by the Gitga'at Nation and other First Nations along the coastline to come and photograph this. They call it an emergency. I mean, they realize that their lifestyle is under extreme danger, and they need our voices, they need our images to take the story out to the places where these decisions are being made.
You know, living in fear of catastrophic oil spill is become very real.
I would like the world to understand that the First Nations, not just along the coast, but along the route of this pipeline, they don't want this. I mean, this is not good for them. In global terms, when you think about the Alberta tar sands, it will be doubling its potential output if this pipeline goes through. So it's not just the impact that it'll have on the coastline, it's also the impact that it's going to have in Athabasca. This is one of the most toxic projects on the planet. And I think as a civilized society, we need to ask ourselves, do we need this oil? And maybe the answer is no, not anymore.